is the Celebrity Authority Show. Please welcome your host, Sam Cawthorn.
I'm super excited here today, guys, because we have Karen Chaston here in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sam, for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Karen, you are a life coach. You run a
Yes.
business called Live Life by Design,
Yeah.
and also you talk about the gift of death.
Loss.
Oh, sorry, the gift of loss.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more. Why do you call it a gift of loss?
I know everyone thinks it's quite strange, but we have so many deaths in our lives. So that in itself tends to tell us that we're meant to learn from them. They're not meant to be these pivots or these like sort of moments in time where we go down and suffer and never come back. And I have found throughout my life, I've had a lot of deaths of different sorts. And I have learnt that when I look for the gift in it, I find that I come out a better person and I learn and I grow. And sure, it's sad, but you know what? I have learnt that love never dies, it just transforms.
Look, it's a beautiful way of looking at loss in a real different light, and I'm sure many of our listeners obviously are more interested in navigating and seeing how you've done it. But share with us a little bit more about your story, and is there a specific moment in time where you did lose something that was close to you?
Yes, I did. I've actually lost quite a few, but the main pivotal moment that actually put me onto this new path that I'm on was in July 2011 when my husband and I woke up one Sunday morning, the 10th of July, and found that our son Dan had passed away at our back door a few hours before, which was something you don't expect, and you certainly don't, you'll never expect to have to bury your children. My mother obviously was like, what's going on here? He's meant to be at my funeral, not me at his.
Tell me a little bit more about that day. You were living here in Australia.
Yes, in Narrabeen.
And how old was your son?
27.
27. So what, he was out working, he was out at a party? Like,
No, he had gone out. Okay,
day.
so he had a big week that week. It was in July, as I said. On Monday night, he went to a football match. On Wednesday night, he went to a State of Origin match. And on Friday night, he went to a football match. And then on Saturday, he went out with his friends.
And he was working at the time?
Yeah, he was working. Yeah, he was actually an apprentice carpenter.
Okay.
He had been travelling overseas for a few years, and then he was just, this is what my career I want to do. And he went out and he drank a little bit too much, as he had a tendency to do, but that wasn't what killed him. It was actually his lungs that failed him when he fell over and went to catch his breath. He couldn't. And this might be a bit deep, but let's go there. He had been in Scotland previously and he spent a week in hospital with pneumonia. But I had a three-way conversation with Dan about 2 years after he passed. And that's how he told me how he died, because we really had no idea. And I just love that. I love the fact, because I'll even go further, because I said to him, oh, Dan, I'm sorry, did you know you were passing? And he said, yes, I did. And I said, when we were in the front bedroom and we were there, and he goes, Mum, don't worry about it. You astral travelled, both you and Dad astral travelled, and you helped me pass. And I just went, oh my God, I knew we astral travelled when we slept, but I didn't know we did things like that. Isn't that incredible?
Look, I'm sure many people out there are interested in what astral travel is, but just before we deep dive into that, what was that moment like when you went to the back door on a morning,
Yeah.
knowing that he's your son, still lives at home, someone that you've cherished,
Yep.
that you've been there for. Tell us a little bit more about what was that moment like? You just walking to the back door and seeing.
Well, my husband had called out that. He went, bloody hell,
Oh, so
Dan's. So my husband went downstairs first and said, bloody hell, Dan's asleep at the back door. So
this was about 8 a.m. in the morning? Or?
Yeah, it was just about 8:45. And so I went, took the stairs very quickly. And as I rushed through the door, he was lying there in the fetal position saliva coming out of his mouth. So I thought he was alive because there was sort of, coming out of his mouth. And as we turned him over, his legs sort of stayed up, and I just went, well, that doesn't look good. I've watched too much CSI. I thought, that doesn't look good. No, put that out of my head. But when the paramedics arrived, they literally just walked. It was like they walked in, just looked at him and came to me and said, sorry, he's gone. And I'm like, no, go back. You haven't even looked at him. And they said, it's all pooled at the back here. He's been dead for hours. So, yeah, and it was a real shock. But my husband and I just handled it so differently because he has a twin brother. Dan had a twin brother, Josh, and an older brother, Ben, and they were in Queensland. So
they weren't living...
No, Dan was with us and his girlfriend were living with us sort of under our house. Not in a Harry Potter cupboard, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, right. So
yes.
His girlfriend also was out that night?
No, she was out separately and she was initially in bed. So we ran and said, Georgie, get up. And then she came and then it was something that you never expect to happen. But the next day when we went to the autopsy, the three of us were really keen to see him because obviously he had blood over his face and stuff like that. So the next day when we saw him, we thought, oh, he looks a lot better. And then, and then when we saw him at his funeral, he looked even better as well, whereas his brothers didn't really want to see him, whereas we wanted to get that image out of our minds. But yeah, because he was a gorgeous looking boy. Cheeky.
Karen, the way that you speak about this moment in time is quite inspiring.
Oh, thank you, Sam.
Because, look, I'm sure it's like the worst nightmare of every mum.
Yes.
For someone that they've cherished for all of their life. This is their offspring, and you then see them at just before the prime of their life.
Mm.
Have you always been this positive?
I have been pretty positive, but I feel I've always been spiritual. I've always sort of dabbled in it. And I read a book in probably around 2000, 2001, which was Life on the Other Side by Sylvia Browne. And it explains what happens before we come down here, what happens while we're here, and what happens when we go back. And because he died so suddenly, a lot of my family, because I'm from a large family, and friends, like one of my closest friends who used to babysit Dan and my other children when they were younger, she was worse than me. She couldn't get out of bed. She's like, no, this can't be right. So I bought about 10 copies of this book and I gave it to people, and people got to actually go, wow, this is amazing, because we can see what Dan's doing, like who would have greeted him, who would have been there, what happens after you pass. So this belief, I'm not even going to say belief, this knowing in me has really helped me to not only see the signs from him continually, but to be guided by him. And in some ways, he's actually now my mentor because he gives me such great, I know he plants ideas in my head, Sam, seriously. He keeps planting these ideas in my head and he keeps guiding me to go here and there. He's guided me to you. I just know it. And I love the fact that we're here for such a short time, and we have our guides. But right from an early age, we stop listening to them. We listen to everyone else around us and we get it wrong.
So for people out there that have experienced loss
yes.
of a loved one, you say that you're still, guided by him, connected with
yes.
him, etc. If there's people out there that don't have that at all,
yeah.
How could you encourage us all to still have that connection? And as you were saying, was it astral?
Yeah, astral travel.
Astral travel?
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing us a little bit more
What is astral travel?
Yeah.
Well, it's literally we go back home to where we all came from. So we're just, if you sort of think of us Earth, we're on a rock, hurtling through space, doing all of this stuff, and there's a lot of the universe. So we literally go throughout the universe when we sleep. And I know it sounds really incredible, and it's okay if you don't get it. I'm not really offended if you don't get it. But you know what? It's a great way to live your life, because then you'd never fear death. So
how do we do it? How do we do it?
Well, it's through the process that I actually encourage people to go through, which is a 4-step process of, it's about learning how to cope with any death in your life. And it might not be a loved one. It could be a marriage, could be your job. It could be your financial situation, your health.
Look, we've got a little bit of time now. Would you mind just
Sam.
sharing us a little bit more about these four
Yeah.
these 4 things to help other people really deal with the gift of loss, as you say,
yes.
which is a profound thought. But share with us all.
So the first thing is you've got to stop. Now, I didn't stop. I literally went straight back to work as a CFO when Dan passed. It took me 15 months to stop and take my breath. So the first thing you have to do is you have to stop, because it's when you stop you gather the awareness. And it's really important. We're human beings, not human doings. So it's in the stopping that we actually can take that conscious, loving breath and come back to who we are.
So that's more about really dealing with it there and then, instead of suppressing it and keeping yourself busy.
Yes.
You stop. And you actually think about it.
Which brings us to the second step, which is accepting. Because so many people will not accept where they're at. They're like, no, this hasn't happened. You know, I've met so many people who have been made redundant, and 20 years later, they've lost their health, they've lost their wealth, all because they couldn't accept that they were made redundant.
Wow.
You know, and it's so sad, because they were great managers. And so in this accepting, you also figure out that, you know, what does this mean? Like, what are the consequences of this? And from there, you move into identifying. So identifying any of the uncompleteness in the relationship. Because for every relationship, we have hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And when any relationship ends, whether it's your job, whether it's a personal or a relationship, a marriage, we have to realise that we're not going to achieve those hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And understanding, so what does that mean for me now that I'm now on a new path? And from there, you actually come to complete the relationship. And when you complete the relationship...
Complete number 4, yeah.
Yeah, so number 4 is complete. And through completing it, that's when you receive the gift, because then you go, okay, so who am I now? And you start asking yourself these amazing questions. Who am I now? Who do I want to be? Where do I want to be? How do I figure out the steps to close that gap, to become that person? Because everything happens for a reason, to bring us into who we are meant to be. We're all here for a purpose. We're all here to be who we are, who we chose to be, and to get over these little challenges and these little bumps in the roads. But you know what? Knowing that Dan is always with me, and I have to say my dad gets very upset. He's also on the other side, and he gets always upset because I give Dan all the credit, and he actually said, I do stuff too. So now I go, okay, Dan, Dad, anything with parking spaces, I'll give you credit.
So doing these steps, you can also, I don't know, be guided by the other side, as you're saying.
Well, you're just tuning into who you are. So we have 3 brains. We have our mental brain, our heart brain, and our gut brain. Mind, body, soul. We are more than who we are. By tuning in and trusting our 3 brains, and most of us live in our mental brain, we don't tap into our heart brain or our gut brain. So that's what this does. It helps you to get back to you. We're all born as us, but through growing up, we allow other people to, say little things to us, along the way, where you just go, oh, maybe I'm not good at that, or maybe I can't do that. Like when I wrote my first book, I went to a girlfriend.
And what's the book called?
Okay, the first book ended up being my 3rd book. The book I'm talking about is my 3rd book, which is called Teenagers Playing Grown-Ups. Okay? So it's a story about 4 teenage girls who fall pregnant and choose a different option. So I actually adopted a child out when I was 16, okay, which is another story.
I feel as if we could talk to her for ages.
Sorry, I'll just very quickly.
Yeah.
So I had 2 other girlfriends who also fell pregnant. So I adopted my child out. One had an abortion and one got married, okay? So I went to the friend who had the abortion and I said to her, I want to write this book, okay? And she goes, what do you mean you're going to write a book? You were crap at English. You were really good at maths. And I went, that's probably why I became a CFO. And I said, but that was 40 years ago. What has that got to do with us? And she goes, well, I should write the book. And she said, I was good at English. And she's a school teacher.
Yeah.
And I said, but if I write a book, doesn't stop you from writing a book. And she's going, I still don't see why you're writing a book. And I just went, oh my God. So we get, and if I had not done the development in myself, I would have maybe gone, oh, she's right, I was crap at English. Yeah. But, you know, I'd been to university, I had a master's degree, I had a whole lot of stuff in between. So
now, look, again, Karen, I do feel as if we could talk to you for ages.
Oh, thank you, Sam.
But just very quickly, what's next for you now?
Well, now I have actually embraced bringing my gift of loss programs and my CFO skills to bring them back into the workplace, because it's time that we humanised the modern day workplace and actually allowed what we refer to as soft skills, for some reason have been downgraded. Let's actually bring them back in so that we can move forward into the new economy with AI coming in. And let's face it, are our companies and our workplaces really working? Let's have a look at the $1 trillion industry of drugs, of, you know, alcohol, all of these substances and suicide. Are we really coping with the way that the world is being run? Let's humanise it, bring our humans back into it, and I'm pretty sure we will see not only businesses thriving, but people thriving.
Karen, look, thank you so much for joining us here on the Celebrity Authority Show.
Thank you,
Amazing
Sam.
interview today. But look, just before you go, we have a challenge for you. And we do this with every guest. And it's the 10-question in 60-second challenge.
Oh, that's okay. I thought it was going to be climb a wall or something. I can do that.
Do you accept it?
Yes, I do.
All right, Karen, your time starts now. Favourite colour?
Red.
Favourite food?
Oh, I'm going to go spinach.
Spinach?
Yeah, because it really is.
Yeah. Favourite celebrity?
Tina Turner.
Oh, great. Favourite actor?
Oh, there's so many of them out there. Who can I think of? I don't know why Russell Crowe is coming to mind. I'll have to go with
Good
him.
Australian, yes. Favourite professional speaker?
I am going to go Brendan Burchard.
Ah, he's amazing. Favourite book?
The Radical Forgiveness.
Favourite movie?
Dances with Wolves.
Ah, classic. Favourite city?
Sydney.
Favourite drink?
I've stopped drinking this alcohol this year, so I'm going to go a mocktail.
Ah, favourite pizza topping?
Vegetarian.
Vegetarian. And Karen Chaston, if you could be an animal, which animal would you be?
A lioness.
Why lioness?
Oh, that's another long story, but let's face it. Can't you just see me just being a lioness?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for welcoming Karen here for the Celebrity Authority Show. Well done.